Good evening, and welcome to Muskegon Community College and the Art and Music Building and our large ensemble room, room 1201. I'm so grateful, so excited to look out and see people in our house. So thanks for being here. This is just, I'm sure you've all heard the story from your children, your friends, family. Long time coming, almost exactly 10 years ago, we started this project for this building. And money, we kept having to cut things out. And so this, which was our primary showpiece, ended up being the last thing that was cut. And so for the last, we moved in here in 2019. And so for the last 6 years, this has been this great big shell that didn't have heat, didn't have anything in it. And our current president, Dr. John Selman, became president about 1.5 years ago, and he said, my first priority is to complete this ensemble room. And 1.5 years later, we have that. Our board of trustees approved special money for it, along with some wonderful donations and fundraising that went on. I see Sue back there, who is a part of running our fundraising campaign. And the money was allocated, and it took about 7 weeks to complete this room, and here we are, and it's just beautiful, I think. Don't you all agree? So I should have started with, I'm Dan Myers, I'm the director of music here, and I have the privilege of doing that. This concert tonight is really exciting. It's the first one. I was thinking too, to look out and see all of you here, it's just so cool to have people in our building beyond students. I mean, the students are so special. They're the reason we're here, but to have people come out here and see what we do and where we're at is really kind of cool. So there's more to happen. We will have some projectors that will be able to project things here. There will be screens and more things will be happening with the room. We will eventually have a stage up here that'll raise that up so you'll be able to see your children, your friends, your family better. But right now we just wanted to get this going and have it happen. And I just couldn't be more excited to have this concert here for you tonight. And a number of my colleagues are here. First of all, my colleague over here, Nicholas Palmer, who is our vocal music director and piano and music theory. And also playing over here, another one of our instructors in our digital music certificate program, Ken Thies. And so finally, I'll introduce to you, and I'll get off the stage here and get out of the way for a minute, the director of our wind ensemble, Dr. David Yandel.
out tonight. I know it's a beautiful day today in West Michigan, so thanks for spending your evening here. I want to thank my wonderfully supportive colleagues, Professor Myers and Professor Palmer, and just echo his sentiments about how grateful we are for this wonderful room. I know a lot of people did a lot of work before I came here to have this room in place, and it's wonderful to perform here and share music with you here. So that was the Seal Lullaby by American composer Eric Whitacre. We'll continue on with some pieces that feature the different sections. We have two pieces for our flutists. The first is actually one of the oldest pieces of notated music, one of the oldest things ever written down, called La Folia, which will feature our flute section. And then two of our flutists have their last concert with us here at MCC, and so they've prepared a short piece called Farewell from Celtic Suite. So I'll step aside to let the flutists share their music with you. So before we go back to the full ensemble, we have another section feature, this time for our low brass, the tubas, trombone, euphonium, España Cañí. We have for you today is called Pictures at an Exhibition. It's really one of the greatest pieces in the classical repertoire. Can be performed on piano, for symphony orchestra, for band, and it really is meant to depict an art exhibition. So it starts with Promenade, which is meant to show walking around an art gallery. And then the next movement is called Bydlo, which is a Russian term for an ox cart in the countryside. So it's meant to show a huge expanse of land, this great big ox from far away coming closer and closer and then fading into the distance. The next movement we have is called Baba Yaga, which is an evil witch from Russian folklore, literally the hut on hen's legs, so meant to be sort of nightmare fuel for Russian children, where the story is from. And then it ends with a movement called the Great Gate of Kiev, which is both a painting but also a literal gate, meant to be very dramatic and full of huge sort of church bells that ring throughout the town of Kiev. So we'll just take a moment to hand back to my colleague, Professor Myers. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends, our jazz ensemble, stand up.
Delayed Oasis on tenor sax. Christian Gilligan and Maxim Chalupa on the trombones. Graham Gibson on trumpet. Thank you very much. Again, Delana Weesey on tenor sax, Graham Gibson up on the trumpet, Christian Gilligan, and Maxim Chalupa on trombone. And a little solo over there on the drums from Nate Peterson. That was It's Our Turn Now. So yeah, it's okay. In fact, it's encouraged after a soloist to clap for him in jazz. That's really cool. You know, in other musics we don't. But if you liked it, clap. If you didn't like it, then boo. do something, give them something up there. So anyway, I can see already, the one thing I got is we're in the dark up here. I saw that with Dr. Yandel when he was out here. So this next one is called Manteca. Manteca. We're going to feature Nate Peterson, Alex Stevens over there on the congas. This is his tune, man. Graham Gibson again, Jelena, and Kira Ransom also on the trumpet on this one. So here we go. Here's Manteca. Yeah, Kira back there on trumpet. Jelena on flute that time. Did I miss anything? Oh, and Alex on the congas. Did you hear those? Yeah. So a couple of other quick thank yous. You probably noticed a young fellow running around here with cameras and doing a lot of videographying, if that's a word. If it's not, I just made it up. But John Mills over there, our videographer here at the college. Thank you, John, for being here tonight for our inaugural concert. Also, our director of marketing, I hope I got the right title, Kristen Tank is here. Thank you. And I saw also the chair of Arts and Humanities back there, I think, Dr. Connor Roddy. Thanks for being here. And I mentioned Sue earlier, because I'm always afraid to say her last name, but I'm going to go Samaniego. I'm good now. Did I miss? Is there anybody else, any other colleagues out there? I appreciate your being here. I think I'm trying to see everybody. Yeah, thanks very much for supporting us and having this go on tonight. Another group that's super important, and it's really kind of cool because it's the first time this has ever happened. Our sound was set up and is being run by students who are in our digital music
certificate program. And we have Cameron, Garrett, and Lily. You probably saw them moving some mics up here, helping set up and doing everything. So that's really kind of cool. They're students. This is a practicum for them. They get to learn how this all works. So that's really exciting too. And again, I mentioned him earlier, their instructor, Ken Thies. Thanks, Ken, for having him out here tonight and doing that. So our next one, we're going to feature a young fella here who's been with us for several semesters now. You've probably seen him on the theatrical stage as well. And he's going to do for us tonight a tune that some of you may know. It's called Fly Me to the Moon. It's also kind of part of a project he was doing, right? For another class?
Yeah, it's so I passed my astronomy class.
Yes, so it's so he passes astronomy. If he doesn't sing well, he fails jazz ensemble, but he passed astronomy, so that'll be good. So anyway, we're going to feature Maxim now on Fly Me to the Moon.
Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. I love you.
Maxim Troop, yeah. Frank Sinatra's got nothing on him. All right, what do we got? Let's see, what's next? Which one? Oh,
Yeah, some of you might recognize this one. This goes back a few years. Anybody ever heard of Earth, Wind, and Fire? Yeah, the group Earth, Wind, and Fire. I mean, no, Fire. Yeah, so we're going to do a little thing. Actually, I think the rhythm section wanted to do this one. Isn't that right? Yeah, you guys brought it to us. And I happen to love the tune, too. So you might recognize it. It's a little bit of fun. I'm going to move back to the other side, so don't start yet, Shakely. But here's Earth, Wind, and Fire's Fantasy. Oh yeah, and we're going to feature our guitarist, Carter Simpson, right there. Another hand for Carter over on the guitar. Yeah. All right, well, before we wrap up this evening with our final number, as mentioned with the Wind Ensemble, we got a few people who are moving on. Got Isaac over there on the piano. Going to Central. Gonna miss him. Been 2 years. 2 great years, man. And his roommate, Cutter Simpson, also going over to Central. Gonna miss those guys. They also have a very successful and a great band. If you ever get a chance to hear them, Extension Cord. Yeah. Let's see, over here on this side, I think we got Jelena up here on tenor sax and flute here, and played flute in the Wind Ensemble. She's going to Grand Valley to study music. Graham, you're going to Western, correct? Back there on trumpet, Graham's going to Western. And Maxim Chalupa also going off to Grand Valley. Keep it going. No, you're coming back. You're coming back. That's it. None of the rest of you get to leave. No, it's so exciting to see. It's what we do. The worst thing, I'm going to tell you, the worst thing about being an educator, a teacher, is you never get to see anything complete. It's not like cutting the grass where you can go, that's done. And it's a cool thing, but it's a tough thing. I mean, the great thing is, it's just the beginning for a lot of these people. And it's fun. But it would be nice to go, I finished that. But I don't ever want to do that. So I just want to wish them all the best. They've been incredible, all of them, everybody up on this stage. I mean, just give all of them a hand, please. So we're going to wrap this up with another song you might recognize. Gene Krupa made this a little bit famous. And we're going to feature Nate Peterson, who's also been with me for a number of years now. And another great thing about Nate, he graduated actually last year, still playing with us, and he now works here at the college in our admissions area, in our admissions office. So he stayed right on with us, and he's able to play. He's also teaching private percussion. So we're going to feature him on this next one, Sing, Sing, Sing. And again, to all of you, thank you for being part of truly a historic night and just a really cool setting to look out here and see people in this. 11 years ago, you know what they were doing in this room? Does anybody know? They were fixing automobiles. This was the auto shop, and it's not anymore. So this whole building used to be welding and all of those things, and this has been turned into a great place. So you just brought it to life by coming and sharing this night with us. So thank you so much. And we're going to conclude with Sing, Sing, Sing. Thank you so much. Good luck getting out of here. You know, if you're lost, I'm going to be here for probably an hour, hour and a half. If I see you wandering the halls, I'll try to point you in some direction. But thank you again. Have a great night. Thank you for these people. And come back and see us often. If you want to, I would encourage them. I'll turn the lights on here in a minute. But if you want to look around this facility, just wander down the hallways a little bit. You'll see on the second hallway down there, we have our piano lab and music theory lab. You'll see practice rooms, our small ensemble room right next door. We have a recording studio in there. So take a look around before you head out. You don't have to hurry. Thank you again. Have a great night. And we'll see you soon.